Hi, this is Steve. Welcome back to my channel, Scale Model Kit Review. I am very pleased to bring you another build of the IXO Collection's MB Willys Jeep from World War II. I am currently working on stages 11 through 14. If you haven't done so already, head over to IXO Collections and purchase this kit today. Currently, it only comes as a complete kit, but it's fantastic, and if you follow along with my build, you'll have no problems. So, without further ado, let's get started. Here's the step-by-step instructions for stage 11. This time I work on a machine gun mount plate, their gearbox, casing, cap, transmission shaft cap, parking brake drum and cover, and the oil plug. Here's all the parts. Here's the steps involved with that. It's pretty easy actually to do this. So next I'll go ahead and get the parts out. We'll get a closer look at the parts, and then after that I will go ahead and show you the common tools I use to assemble this kit. Here's the parts for stage 11, and you can find these parts in pack box number 1. Alright, let's get a closer look. Here's all the tools I use for my builds, and I do use the Vaseline to lubricate the screws when I'm screwing them into metal. Makes it easier and prevents the screws from breaking. And here's a little micro applicator for that when I do that. And sometimes I also use some super glue to help hold parts in place. And of course the X-Acto knife, the glue looper to apply the super glue, a good set of tweezers, and my Wera screwdriver. And this is, of course, is a little water bottle lid to put my super glue into when I'm using that. Here's a close-up of the parts for stage 11. Here's the machine gun mount plate itself. That's made of plastic. We also got the gearbox support, and that's made of metal. Gearbox casting itself, 2 parts there. And that's made of plastic for both of those. Gearbox casting end plate, that's plastic. Transmission shaft cap, plastic. Parking brake drum cover, parking brake drum itself, both of those are plastic. And the oil dipstick plug. CP, DM, and FM screws. First thing to do, bring over the frame for the Jeep, and we're going to mount the machine gun mount plate on this core support here, run through the center, and we'll flip this over. It simply goes down, just like that. And we're going to put 2 CP screws into this from the other side. That looks good there. Next I'll mount the gearbox support, and we're going to make sure that this part here with the edge, with the ridge on top there, is facing the gun mount, so that's going to go down just like that. Flip this over. FM screw goes into this, and I pre-lubricated the hole. And that looks good there. Next I'll assemble the gearbox casing. And if you look at the gearbox itself, we have two openings on the side here. We're going to sandwich some parts between those two, just like that. And the transmission shaft cap will go on this side, and that simply gets sandwiched there. And the gearbox casing cap goes on the other side, and we'll put that down together. And we'll put two CP screws into this. Here's one. And two. And that's how that looks there. Next, I'll assemble the parking brake drum, and they just simply go back together just like this. Pretty much fits like that. You want to get the holes to line up. Little indentation there. CP screws go into this also. There's one. And that's how that looks there. Go ahead and bring the transmission over, and that's going to insert just like that. And just try to hold everything together. CP screw goes into that. And transmission brake is installed there. And here's the gun mount we installed and the gearbox support. Bring that over. Remember that on the gearbox support you have that top edge there. And we'll put the transmission on there just like that. And this takes a DM screw. And that looks good there. Perfect. The other tool you'll need are a good set of sprue cutters, and we're going to detach number 11I. It's just a little cap. And that cap goes down on top of our transmission cover. Press it down. That's how that looks. And that completes stage 11, where we installed the gun mount and the gearbox and gearbox brake assembly. And that's how that looks there. Stay tuned for stage 12. This time I start working on one of the leaf springs for the suspension components. There's all the parts. And we install the spring perches on both ends. Relatively easy to do. Let's look at the parts. Here's the parts for stage 12, and you can find these in parts box pack number 1. I'll take these out, we'll get a closer look. And here's all the parts for stage 12. We received one of the front springs, I believe it's for the left side. The spring hinge itself, this one's a little bit larger than the other two components, which are the Leafspring plate hinges themselves. We also received the Leafspring C hinge, Leafspring support A, and Leafspring support B. And we received 9 screws, which are the FM type. First thing we do is we install 12E, which is spring support, and it gets situated just like that with the holes towards the front of the bumper. Line up the holes, put an FM screw into this. I'll get both started before I tighten it down. And that's tight there. Next we'll put the other spring perch on, and that's a little further back past this support for the engine itself. And that's just going to go down just like that. Once again, 2 FM screws go into this. I will get them both started. And that looks good there. Next I'll install the spring C hinge. Notice there's a long side and a short side. The longer side goes through the spring perch. And we have the Leafspring hinge itself. And there you go, you have the shorter side here compared to the longer side that I'm holding, and that's going to go onto the spring also, kind of like a puzzle, and get it started. That's started there. And that's perfect there. And we'll install the spring onto the back perch and the front perch. Now note that the spring has a larger hole on this side as compared to the other side there. So this side needs to go onto that C-clip, that C-spring mount bracket on the front. So that's going to go towards the front, and then we put this one towards the back. And we'll use our tool we received with the pack to line up the holes a little bit. Just insert it in there. That looks good. We'll mount our spring clip hinges. Notice that it kind of goes in an out direction. We'll mount that up next here. FM screw once again. I'll leave it loose a little bit. And we'll screw that in. And there's your mounts there. And that's how they both look there. And we'll go back to the front. And insert our spring on the front there. And an FM screw goes into that. And that completes stage 12, where we assembled one of the front springs on the suspension here, and that was a lot of fun doing that. So stay tuned for stage 13. Here's the step-by-step instructions for stage 13. Now this is very similar to what we just did in the previous stage. So just follow along with that and you'll have no problems. Let's look at the parts. Here's the parts for stage 13, and you can find these in parts pack box number 1. I'll take these out. We'll get a closer look. And here's stage 13 parts, and we received the other spring for the other side, which goes up front. This is made of metal. It's very nice there. And we received the spring hangers, the one for the front and one for the back, and the shackle support and so forth. GM and FM screws. And just as I did earlier, on the other side we'll attach this shackle here on the front, and you can see it is grooved, so it helps you line it up. And FM screw goes into this. I'll get 2 of them started. And that's nice and tight there. Looks good. Do the same to the back spring hanger. Same thing, FM screws go into this one also. Now we'll install our C-hinge, and just as before, the longer one gets inserted here and the shorter one will be for the spring itself. And we'll use an FM screw and a spring hinge, and just like I'm showing you there. That's good there. Now we'll take our front spring and make sure that this part goes to the front and the smaller one goes towards the back, and we'll insert that in the back here and also up front, just like that. Put our spring clip in. Go. And we secure the back one with GM screws. These are longer screws. Feed that through all the way. That's good there. And that's how that looks there. And that's all we do for stage 13. Let's go to 14 next. Here's the step-by-step instructions for stage 14, which is the final stage for this video. And this time I received the front axle U-bolts and some clip plates, as they call them. Those are the parts. These are the steps involved there. Let's look at the parts. Here's the parts for stage 14. You can also find these in parts pack number 1. And here's a close-up of all the parts. Here's the front axle itself, and it's made out of metal. Very nice there. And the U-bolts themselves, they appear to be made out of plastic. And then the front right clip plate, that would be the smaller one right there. And then the front left clip plate is the larger one. Both of these are made out of metal, and we received CM and HM screws. Now we're going to install the front clip plate, and that goes over here on the spring side where we install the extra brackets, and get that situated here. Get that ready, and we're going to be putting CM screws into this. One on each side. You can kind of see it there. That's good there. And eventually that's going to mount down on top of our axle. And here's our axle, and we're going to install it to where the steering portion of it here, or this rod right here, is going to be closer to the right hand side or the left side of the axle there. So remember, it's longer here than it is there. So the short side definitely is going to be on this side where the bracket is. And we're going to mount this underneath, just like that. HM screws are going to go into this, and we'll feed the HM screw in on top here. Through that hole, and hold up the axle underneath and screw it in place. And that's good there. We'll do the same on the other side. We actually have C-17s flying over the house right now, so I apologize if you hear that. We'll put the other plate over here. Same thing, we're going to feed the axle the HM screw. And that's good there. Tight and tight. And lastly, we feed these what they call the U-bolts underneath the axle, and they're just going to be press fit in place. Got one in place. And there we go. They finally came through. That's good there. And before you put these U-bolts on, I recommend you kind of leave all this loose before you tighten that screw down. And we'll go ahead and press these U-bolts in, just like we did on the other side. There's that one. And then the other side here. And U-bolts are tight. And I'll screw this back down. And that works there. And there. There's your U-bolt there, and there's your U-bolt there. And that completes stage 14. Looks great. Stages 11 through 14. I appreciate everybody who subscribes to my channel. Please hit the bell for all notifications and give me a thumbs up.